Hello, and welcome to our session on AI-powered continuous risk validation of healthcare. The outline of our talk today, I'll start with Gartner's survey of healthcare providers. Then I'll move on to talk about the threat landscape for healthcare industry. And lastly, talk about how to stay ahead of threat actors. So let's start with a quick review of the survey conducted by Gartner late last year. This survey consisted of a small number of questions to determine the trend among healthcare providers for technology investments. There were two key takeaways from this survey I want to emphasize. The first is that 94% of the respondents said that AI, machine learning, AI ML would likely be implemented over the next couple of years in their organization. That is by 2026. And also 77% said that their CIOs plan to increase their investments in AI/ML. The application of AI in healthcare is truly endless. A few examples are listed here, and this is just scratching the surface. In today's talk, I want to focus on the key role that AI can play in addressing the ongoing cybersecurity challenges for the healthcare industry. But first, let's look at some numbers. Up until 2023, the worst year in the history of breached healthcare records was 2015. There were three massive health plan breaches that happened in 2015, Anthem, Premera Blue Cross, and XLS, and over 112 million records were exposed. But unfortunately, 2023 beat that record. Over 130 million records were exposed, and this is the highest number ever. So even though the average size of breaches hasn't gone up that much, but the number of breaches has continued to grow consistently year after year, as you can see reflected in the top left graph. That shows the number of breaches that involve 500 or more records. If you look at the list of the top 10 largest healthcare breaches over the past 14 years on the right side, you will see that 6 of them happened in 2023 and 3 of them happened in 2015. Also in 2023, 2 of the large breaches were caused by the MOVEit fault transfer vulnerability, which we'll talk about later. So this is really alarming. What's happening? Before I answer that question, let's take a look at some data from Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. As you know, HHS requires all breaches of 500 or more records to be reported to them, and they make this information available publicly on their website. In fact, HHS provides a very nice breach portal that captures all reported breaches and their characteristics, such as the number of records exposed, the type of breach, the type of affected entities, etc. So far in 2024, we see an alarming rate of new breaches that are being reported against healthcare industry. We see 1.9 breaches happening every day. Majority of the breaches are hacking incidents as opposed to laptop theft or other types of incidents. Also, majority of the affected entities are healthcare providers of different sizes. Again, this is really alarming. What's going on? Let's take a look at a couple of new trends. We see the number of serious vulnerabilities that impact healthcare industry has been going up at a much faster rate than before. For example, in 2023, the MOVEit file transfer vulnerability made a lot of news since it hit various highly regulated industries such as healthcare and financials. In fact, MOVEit vulnerability was responsible for 2 of the top 10 healthcare breaches over the past 14 years, as we saw earlier. In early 2024, ConnectWise Screen Connect vulnerability suddenly gained a lot of attention. The sequence of events on that is as follows. On January 22nd, HHS issued an alert to healthcare industry about the ConnectWise vulnerability and the fact that it could have very substantial impact if exploited by threat actors. Exactly 1 month later, on February 22nd, CISA, which is a federal agency, announced the ConnectWise vulnerability was added to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, and highly recommend that all federal agencies, as well as other industries such as healthcare, to perform timely remediation of this vulnerability. One day later, on February 2nd, CS Magazine reported that the ransomware cybersecurity incident at United Health's Change Healthcare was caused as a result of the exploit of the ConnectWise vulnerability. As we know, the impact of the cybersecurity attack on Change Healthcare has been huge. For example, now we are dealing with huge backlog of claims, major slowdowns of pharmacies, etc. So even though this has been rather controversial and it was not confirmed by ConnectWise that indeed this vulnerability was the root cause of the ransomware attack on Change Healthcare, the fact remains that if there is a critical vulnerability on CISA's known vulnerability, exploited vulnerability catalog, healthcare providers shouldn't take any chances and should protect against it right away. So to recap, the first trend that we notice is that the number of serious vulnerabilities impacting healthcare has been going up at a very rapid pace. The second trend that we see is that hackers are also utilizing AI now, and as a result, we see more frequent and more effective attacks. In such a landscape, how can we in healthcare industry stay ahead of the threat actors, the hackers, the ransomware gangs? There are 6 key factors that are critical for winning this battle, and I'll go over each one. Frequency of security validation in healthcare industry is absolutely critical. Meeting the required frequency for compliance is not enough. Security testing should be performed as frequently as needed, as opposed to as frequently as required by compliance. Why? Because the IT environment where your healthcare assets live continues to evolve, and as a result, it renders the previous security validation out of date. Examples of what triggers the need for a new security validation, any updates of your critical assets, for example, new version of app, new version of an OS or new OS patch, etc., or any updates to the infrastructure, for example, a new web app firewall, WAF, or new security control, etc. Security validation has to be a cyclical process. That is, when one cycle of testing is complete, it's time to plan the next cycle of security testing. Gartner has recognized this and coined the term CTEM, Continuous Threat Exposure Management. The reason we don't see continuous security validation in healthcare industry is the various constraints that they face. For example, there is a budget constraint. Manual testing is expensive as it is, so increasing its frequency is just not feasible. There is also time constraint. Manual testing is slow and it takes many days. Sometimes it also requires a planned downtime window. So that's precisely what automation is meant to address. In fact, automated security validation is no longer a nice to have, but a must have. You can think of an automated security validation solution as a tireless piece of software that can run around the clock to do specifically what you ask it to do. It can also be scheduled to run periodically. For example, for certain critical assets, you may want to run the testing every 2 weeks. Also, the automated solution generates a real-time report at the end of its work. Automated security testing doesn't replace human testers. It allows them to delegate tedious work to the automated solution in order to help free up their time and increase their productivity. Gartner recognized this and identified a new emerging technology, which they call automated pen testing and red teaming. And they say that it has huge good growth potential. How can an automated security validation solution perform its job as accurately as human security testers? AI-powered engine is an essential variable in the equation. As a result of AI, the smart engine can learn from what it has discovered up to that particular point in time and use that information in order to make further decisions. For example, using the currently discovered attack surface, potential vulnerabilities, and exploited vulnerabilities, it would re-strategize its attack plan. Sometimes it would do course corrections and it would perform new attacks. And it will continue to learn from what it discovers. Also, AI-powered smart engine will attempt to focus on finding the most impactful risks first. For example, remote command execution risks. Or it will try to perform lateral movement, which means after exploiting vulnerability on one asset, it will try to use that asset as a pivot point and start attacking other assets. This, of course, will be done in a controlled fashion. So to recap what I've said so far, using AI, a security validation platform can really think like a hacker and act like a hacker. The fourth factor is to proactively detect critical vulnerabilities as they come into existence. To accomplish this, the security validation platform must allow ongoing dynamic updates to its threat knowledge base and also its attack library so that they will include the new vulnerabilities and their exploit scripts. Also, the security validation solution must utilize threat intelligence to help prioritize its focus on vulnerabilities that are currently being exploited in the wild. For example, when CISA and other threat intelligence feeds warned healthcare industry about the ConnectWise vulnerability, the automated security validation solution must support the ability to detect and exploit that vulnerability in a timely fashion. If security staff doesn't act quickly on exploitable vulnerabilities in their environment, they keep the window of opportunity open for the hackers to attack. One common reason for delayed action is the presence of high number of false positives. An automated security validation solution offers concrete evidence for each of its reported risks, that is, for each of the vulnerabilities that it exploits successfully. This makes it easy for the security engineers in healthcare to take an action because there are no false positives that they have to deal with. Security staff can either do the ultimate fix, that is patch the vulnerability, or they can put a stopgap solution in place immediately in order to block the attackers, while at the same time they plan for the long-term fix. All the data points that are required for the short-term fix for the stopgap solution are captured in the report that's generated by the AI-powered automated security testing solution. For example, the detailed kill chain analysis is included there, which has the step-by-step actions taken by the automated security validation solution in order to exploit a particular vulnerability. Last but not least, cyber criminals, including ransomware attackers, are already using AI to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of their attacks. With the chronic shortage of security staffing in healthcare industry, how can the ongoing sophistication of software, cyber criminals, and threat actors be met? An AI-powered smart engine utilizing the latest ethical hacking techniques is required. Without the help of AI, indeed, it's a losing battle. Please make sure to request a live demo of RichBot, the AI-powered automated security validation platform, to see how it can detect and report common ransomware attacks, as well as MOVEit file transfer vulnerability exploit, and also the ConnectWise Screen Connect vulnerability exploit. Thank you.